a microphone to do Q&A?
You mentioned the 13 bloodlines. Can you talk about that? And is the RH negative factor anything to do with it?
When I was in the programs and I would bring up the RH negative thing, it was kind of poo-pooed, but that was, many years ago. The scientists didn't really subscribe to that very much, but the 13 bloodlines were bloodlines that were put in place by these pre-Adamite groups that were running the earth for a long time. And to this day, many of the major leaders are tied in bloodline-wise to them in some way. So these are the 13 groups that run the world and believe that they are not humans. They're here, and we're basically their higher forms, and we're just some hairless apes that they manage. It's pretty much how they view us.
Hi, Bart. I'm Desiree. Can you explain the difference between the synthetic telepathy and the contact from the ETs? Because I know some people can get confused.
Synthetic?
Like voice of God weapon?
Oh, yes. Well, when we were being trained to use the voice of God type of technology, we had to have it used on us as a part of when they're training. You would stand up, stand 40 feet out, describe the sensations you feel as I turn up the intensity. You had to not only know physiologically what it did, how it vibrated brain matter, or used, in some cases, lasers. You had to understand how that worked, but also you needed to know when the technology was being used on you. There were certain sensations you would get in your skull that don't normally happen with normal telepathy. There are sensations involved, and they can be very hard to recognize. You have to look. You have to know to look for these sensations.
Is it like Morse code?
What the sensations?
Like in your ear, or the beep, 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 beep?
It's different for everyone. It can be as simple as a tingle in a weird part of your skull, or a part of your skull heating up, or getting a feeling like someone's pushing something hard into your head, into one tiny spot. It depends on the type of technology being used and the person, their physiology. But you have to learn how to recognize that something's different. If you're having a communication and you're feeling something a little different, then you should question it for sure.
Thank you again for being out on the edge with all of us. From what I'm understanding, third dimension has war, that the dualities must clash to be learning the lessons, and as I think what I heard today, but I want to live not at war. I want to live not in a clash with the other dualities, and I guess I'm looking for a concept so that it's just war all the time. It's fighting. It's that we can have not that.
Well, it's a part of the process. You have to go through all of the turmoil before you reach the higher densities. Fourth density, there's still duality, there's still war, but you look at it differently when you're a part of a mass consciousness that is connecting in a completely different way. Right now, our egos, we're also separated from each other. After this solar event occurs and this consciousness shift occurs, the consciousness of every human being changes. All of a sudden, we start connecting with people in a way that we didn't know was possible, and it's going to be overwhelming. And as we make that connection, our minds are going to start working together, and we're going to start solving problems very easily and wondering why this was not done before. All we had to do was this, and it becomes so clear. And so, war, the war that we know begins to subside, hunger, all of the different problems are solved by us. So don't be too ready to leave yet. We need you. We need people to go through this process. It happens on every planet. and it's frustrating.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm from Florida. My question is, I guess there's a couple things. Are there any updates on when it's expected that we might have this solar event or CME? Another question that's kind of part of this, or maybe something that I found interesting, I'm reading Voices of the Confederation. It's another channeling book. Don Elkins, Carla Ruckert, same group that did Law of One. And they say that we actually don't have to experience a trauma. We're going to experience it because of our consciousness being out of alignment and being out of harmony with this transition. And therefore, I think it stands to reason that we can choose something differently if we consciously and collectively do that. And perhaps we can do that and be that group that starts that, process.
That's true, but there's also another component. The Confederation is not done. Our cosmic cousins, just before, when it comes to when is this going to happen, it kind of goes back to the old kind of religious thing. Nobody knows the time, but they've predicted that it's most likely going to be when the sun comes out of a solar minimum. That's when they think it's most likely. So cosmic law, and not only that, but agreements and accords that these ETs have signed do not allow them to interact with civilization openly. And the only time they can come in is just before it falls or just after. And that has to do with the solar event. Just prior to these solar events, very prior, when people are seeing weird plasma things in the sky, beginning to get worried, wondering what's going on, there will be ships that appear in the sky. And but it does not affect cosmic law because it's already past the point of it's going to happen. And then that's when they took the Mayans into the inner earth. That's when they took other beings like the Olmecs and others off the planet to another location to either experience third density life on another third density planet, or if they've reached the precipice of fourth density consciousness, they'll be brought to a fourth density planet, or to be a refugee for a little while, and then when things calm down here, brought back. So we have, and then after this solar cataclysm, the one that the Anshar showed me anyway, directly after it occurred, all of technology was destroyed, obviously, from electromagnetic pulses. And we're an electrical civilization, 80-90% of us could die without, water being pumped and having access to transit. So our cosmic cousins come down in mass. The image they showed me, it looked like stars were falling. There were so many ships coming down all over. It literally looked like stars falling. And they came down and they began rendering aid to us and helping.
And so they literally physically take people off the planet.
Yes, they do that as well. And people who do perish in some of the earth changes or cataclysms, their spirits are much like what we described in the Law of One. They're brought to another third density planet to experience another cycle and to try to graduate.
So if you live 10 minutes from the water in Florida?
Not good. There's a reason I moved where I did. They showed me, And I fully believe that our consciousness can have an outcome, change the outcome and have an effect on it. But at the same time, I'm making preparations, spiritual and physical preparations, kind of preparations, but the main preparations that need to be made are spiritual, because the electromagnetic waves, they've proven that just pointing electromagnetic waves at certain places in the brain can make people have God experiences. Imagine when you have a huge wall of the sun electromagnetic field coming towards us and how that can affect our consciousness. That is what's going to cause this ascension. And what these beings told me, ascension, it's not going to be a flash of light and then we're flying in the sky and moving things with telekinesis all of a sudden. It's always a gradual thing, and it's And ascension is just the expansion of consciousness. It's that simple. If you're sitting here and someone spoke a truth to you and it affected you and you felt your consciousness expand, you've just ascended. A little bit at a time is how it works.
Well, I've spoken to people around and I feel very connected to them. And the point I'm trying to make is that you said that we're here, all of us here, for here for a reason. So what reason are we here, all here for, you know? Sort of.
I like to kind of picture it this way. Picture a scene to where you see all of these high-density ET races sitting in a giant circle, and it's almost like an arena. And in the middle of this arena, you see open space. And they're talking, we just finished this great mission. And then now you see a planet starting to appear in the middle of this arena, and it's the Earth. They say, this is our next objective. They're in really bad shape. We need all of our top people to go down there. We need you to jump. You'll go in many waves. You'll appear in their time zone, timeline, and you'll appear in the 1930s. This group will appear in this year. You will all forget who you are, just like in your other missions, but you will be dropped behind enemy lines and you will be drawn together. And when you come together, you will remember your mission and you will help each other remember your mission. And then you will do this last task.
You've spoken about the Mayan and the Olmecs. You've spoken about the Mayan and the Olmecs being involved in healing during this process. Can you speak a bit more about healing the Earth or healing part of our ascension process, perhaps?
When they were here as refugees?
No, actually, now I was thinking about...
Right. Well, now they're a part of this wider confederation that many of these groups, they are tied to us karmically. They had been refugees on our planet and had become karmically entangled with this planet and us in certain ways. And if we do not ascend or expand in consciousness, they cannot. We are like a parachute that holds them back. So as Beth said, many of these groups have a vested interest. They're not only just being angelic and we must help these people. There is a reason. They have a personal vested interest in us graduating so that they can graduate to their next level.